Here's another short how-to video on a modification a lot of triples guys like to do. There's a problem with the older clutch push rod mechanisms. They had three different designs. I only had the latest, which is the ball bearing pusher, which is the preferred one. That's out of the later triples. The two earlier ones either had two nylon gears, which through the years with the heat cycles and everything else, they tend to crack, so the mechanism doesn't work properly. The second version actually had steel worm gear inside a nylon outer housing, and those tended to break also. It's been 3 decades. And so the later version, which is the ball bearing, greased ball bearing version, works much better, and you don't have those breakage problems. The problem is it's not a direct bolt-on. Because of the design of the mechanism, it had to be, the inner worm gear had to be, it's approximately 2.8 to 3 millimeters longer than the older ones. So what happens is that this is the old oil seal. The later models had a different oil seal where the seal actually, the sealing part here actually poked out on this side. So when everything was installed, it would be inside this little housing here. The reason for that is that the mechanism is longer. So without that seal, which is no longer available from Kawasaki, it hadn't been for a few years, and pretty difficult to find. If you try to install this later model ball bearing mechanism, what happens is when it's bolted in and you try to use it, almost as soon as it starts to work, it's pushing against that seal. So what happens? The guy puts it in, they're all happy the clutch works nice, and then a week later oil's pouring out of it because the mechanism has actually destroyed this rubber seal, which is a big deal due to the fact that the seal is only removable by splitting the cases. So a lot of cussing going on with the guys that have tried to convert this and then had problems with oil leaks. And so what actually needs to be done, if you're lucky enough to find the seal, great, you're going to have to put it in. If not, you don't want to split the cases and have an older type seal. Basically all you have to do is make a spacer to space this old housing out approximately 2.8 to 3 millimeters. It's not super critical. Now this can be done in a few ways. You know, you can have a metal spacer made. I know guys that have used rubber. I usually just stack gaskets because most guys don't want to pay $100 for a spacer, which takes a couple hours to make. So basically, so you can just, if you want to use this late model on an earlier model with an earlier model seal, you'll just need a spacer approximately 3 millimeters wide to space this out. And as you can see, once you get that 3 millimeters, the mechanism works and does not damage the seal. One other thing you have to do usually is, now your adjuster is going to be about 3 millimeters too short. So you can either go to a specialty bolt company, which will have hopefully one of these in the correct length. Mine's a long way, the store's a long way away, so I go to the hardware store and find a grade 10, I think it's a 10.6, whatever metric bolt that's approximately 3 millimeters longer, and I just grind the head off, don't let it get too hot, slot it, round off the other side, nice, round off the other side, and so you have a new set screw, and set screw that's longer, and you've got that, you have no oil leak, and you've got a new easy to use ball bearing mechanism. And that's about it for that. Hopefully you guys will watch it before you destroy a seal, and hopefully it's helpful.